It's really the very diverse communities involved in Perth. We have old people, young people, Indonesian people, Australian people, men, women, students, scholars, ex-Navy, community leaders. There's a good diversity of voices in the podcast. We also wanted to make a website. This is the website. It's not yet public, unfortunately, because the Australian National Maritime Museum cannot decide on a name for it. But the podcast has a lot of wonderful information and photos on it. You can see there's information about the Maritime Conservation Zone. There's a link to the podcast. There's a photo gallery with many photos. And there's a section where you can share your own stories and photos of HMAS Perth. Now, this website is, we have different themes. Now, we talk about the ship's bells, but we also talk about Bunton and its role in the Pepper Sultanate. We talk about the Battle of the Sunda Strait, but we also talk about the waters of Bunton Bay and views from the shore. There's a section on preserving a wreck, Bunton as a site of pilgrimage, religious pilgrimage, and the relationship between Bunton and Australia. Importantly, the website is also in Bahasa Indonesia. So everything is in Indonesian and everything is in English. We really hope we can launch this website soon. It has a lot of valuable sharing on it. And I think it represents the full story of Perth, not just the war story of Perth. It also situates Perth within Indonesia. Now the next project. This is the next project I would like to share with you before I finish. And this was an Australia-Indonesia Institute short course, which Zainab and I worked together on earlier this year. Gosh, it feels like a long time ago. We had 16 or 17 students from Indonesia joining us for this kursus singkat. And we had students from Untitled, because Untitled is the university that is so close to Bunton Bay, and we wanted to share with those students as much as we could. We also had students from Universitas Indonesia, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Universitas Hasanuddin, and one student from Jambi. So the course was held online, and we had special guest speakers. Yes, a little bit more about the course. Diajarkan oleh me and Mbak Zainab. We had special guest speakers, including Sterling Smith from the Australasian Institute for Maritime Archaeology. We had Moe Chiba, who comes from UNESCO, and she talked to us about the 2001 UNESCO Convention, which Australia has not signed and Indonesia has not signed. So that was very interesting discussion. Then we had a panel of Indonesian maritime archaeology experts talking about the challenges of protecting and preserving underwater cultural heritage in Indonesia. We had an Indonesian and an Australian panel talking about HMAS Perth as a case study. And we had a special session, women only, on developing a career in maritime archaeology and underwater cultural heritage with Maddie McAllister, Widya Nayati from UGM, and Zainab and me. Now, the students also had to do a proyek penelitian, a research project, and we put them in small groups with students from different universities, and they had to come up with a research project. This was really hard for the students, but they did the most amazing job. It was hard for them because they had not met each other before. They were working with students in different universities. So a real challenge. And some of the students were history students, and some of the students were archaeology students. So one of the groups looked at the role of museums in raising public awareness. You might see some familiar faces here, Izmi and there's Zainab at the bottom. Group 2 looked at public involvements to protect and preserve heritage. Group 3 came up with a temporary shipwreck exhibition on HMAS Perth at Untitled, which I would love to pursue if Untitled is interested. And there's Lulu on the screen. Thank you, Lulu, for your fantastic contribution. And Group 4 did a really interesting presentation on the copra trade in Kepulauan Selayar and using it as a heritage tour, as the basis for a heritage tour. So the students did a great job with their research projects, do some site visits. Of course, I couldn't go. I was stuck in Australia. But Zainab took some students to Cileungsi, to the BMKT warehouse. It's an amazing opportunity for them. Some of the students in Jogja went to the Vredenburg Fort Museum, and they were led by Andy Henderson at the Southeast Asian Museum Services. And then the students in Makassar went to Benteng Sombo-Opu, the 16th century Goan fort, where Dr. Horst Liebner took them on a bit of a tour. So I was very jealous that I could not attend the site visits, but wonderful for the students to be able to do so. So I think I will finish now just with, to let you know, we got some great publicity about these activities as well. We had an article published in Inside Indonesia, and we also I did a podcast for SEAC Stories. And yeah, it was great to be able to share it with more people. So I will finish now. I just wanted to make some final reflections about Indonesia-Australia collaboration in maritime heritage. As I said, the technical agreement between Australia and Indonesia is not signed yet, and we hope it will be signed soon. The management plan for Perth is drafted, but it has not been signed by the Governor of Banten. We hope it will be soon. Even though Australia and Indonesia have not worked so well together in the past to protect and preserve HMAS Perth, I'm very confident that we will in the future. We've finally started to build the sort of sustainable relationships that we need to continue this collaboration. Are going to come together in the future. This REC is part of Australia's history, and it's forward. We have to stay committed to bilateral engagement, people-to-people connections. Hopefully we can visit Banten and visit the communities of Pulau Panjang soon. Until then, I hope my friends and colleagues in Indonesia stay healthy. I hope COVID comes to an end soon. We're 2 years for everybody. So I think the opportunity to re-engage more closely between Indonesia and Australia as soon as we can in person is really going to be very welcome. And on a personal note, it has been a great privilege for me to work more closely with my Indonesian colleagues, Zainab and Shanatria and others, and to get to know the survivors and the descendants of HMAS Perth. In the future, I hope I can also meet the people of Banten Bay, including the students at Untirta. And I think I will stop here. If the students are here, I know some of them are here, like Aksal and Lulu. Maybe you would like to say some words. I'm not sure if that's allowed. But I will stop sharing my screen. You can email me or find me on Twitter. And thank you so much for this privilege to speak with you today.
Well, thank you very much, Ms. Natalie Pearson, PhD, for giving such an inspiration and interesting presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, now are the time for the question and answer session. I would like to have 2 questions from the participants. Please raise hand by the Zoom icon for anyone who wants to ask some question. Penanya bisa bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia kan ya? Penanya bisa bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia kan ya? Ya, bisa. Oke. Okay. For Safety Ani, please.
Baik Kakak, terima kasih. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Di sini saya izin bertanya bahasa Indonesia. Yang ingin saya tanyakan yaitu bagaimanakah kerjasama antara Indonesia dan Australia terhadap di bidang pertukaran informasi dan intelijen, khususnya menghadapi illegal fishing mungkin dan kejahatan transnasional di perairan Indonesia, seperti itu. Dan juga bagaimanakah upaya peningkatan kerjasama pertahanan antara kedua negara di berbagai bidang. Terima kasih.
Wow. Indonesia and Australia can keep sharing information. Is that right, Zainab? It was a bit hard to hear. How we can exchange information. I think people-to-people connections are the most important. And I think making an investment in relationships is the most important way of sharing information. I think in the past, and certainly what happened when HMAS Perth was first in the news about salvage, is Indonesia and Australia did not see each other as working together. And I think that did some damage to the relationship. Indonesia and Australia have an up and down relationship, but the people-to-people connections are enduring. And I think continuing to invest in those and to work together with the next generation, with our professional colleagues in the government, with scholars, with a wide range of people. The other thing I noticed with this first project was many of the materials or the comprehensive management plan was provided in English and not in Indonesian. So I think we must have materials that are accessible in both languages, because otherwise it is like a form of gatekeeping. That means that people who don't speak English or people who don't speak Indonesian can't participate. So I think that was a big focus for our project, is making sure that they were accessible in both languages. Zainab, did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Natalie. Ibu moderator boleh ya? Bukan ibu ya, Mbak. Atau ya. Ya, terima kasih Natalie. Kalau ada pertanyaan seperti apa kita menjalin hubungan, nah, Natalie sudah menjawab tadi kalau kita memang perlu kita perlu berinvestasi di dalam menjalin satu hubungan, salah satunya melalui webinar ini. Salah satunya salah banyaknya melalui webinar ini,